Before we get started today, I would like to draw attention to a GoFundMe that my friend and the moderator of our Discord channel, Malcaria, is running. She's trying to raise money to visit her brother who is stationed in Japan. She's trying to raise $1,800 by May 16th. I had said April 28th previously. That's just because I don't know how to read. So that was my mistake. So she's trying to raise that much money by May 16th, which still isn't very long. And I'll include a link to the GoFundMe in the description. If you have any money at all that you're able to donate, I would be very appreciative if you would consider chipping it in to help my friend go and see her brother who is stationed in Japan. So, thank you very much for listening and donating any money if you do, and now let's get back to business. Okay, today we are playing a game on Volskaya Industries. We are in the Gold SR range, and we will be playing Moira the entire way through. And our current team composition is Reinhardt, Soldier 76, Farah, Torbjorn, Mercy, and Moira. So, we've only got one tank. This was before Bridget got put into the game, by the way. So we've only got one tank, which is not ideal. We'd prefer if Torbjorn changed to a tank, but, you know, people are difficult sometimes like that. Also, of note, we have two main healers, which is not ideal, because if you have two main healers, that means you don't get to have Zenyatta on your team, basically. Or Lucio, to be fair, but mostly Zenyatta. And the issue there is that Zenyatta and Lucio have the two strongest defensive ultimates in the game. So if you don't have one of them, usually Zenyatta, you are more vulnerable to things like Dragon Blade and Graviton, Tac Visor, Earth Shadow. You know, a lot of scary ultimates are a lot scarier when you don't have a Zenyatta on your team. So there's that. Other than that, there's not much to say about it. So in the accompanying email, we do have a question. We have a couple of questions, actually. One of them is actually not even about the type of map we're on. It is, in my opinion, where my positioning struggles most with Moira is Koth maps. Any advice on positioning yourself better? I need to work on my positioning in general, but especially on Koth maps or King of the Hill maps. So I wouldn't say that the positioning is necessarily all that different on a King of the Hill map, because you're still trying to stand in kind of the same places, which is like with the front line, but not as the front line, you know? The thing is with King of the Hill maps is just that they are more threatened. There's a lot more places you get threatened from because there are a lot more angles with which people tend to come at you. So, one positioning thing with King of the Hill maps in general is like, there are quite a few King of the Hill maps where standing on the objective is not actually that good. For example, Sanctum, Lighthouse, and Control Tower. Standing on the point on those maps tends to be very hazardous, particularly like Sanctum, because Sanctum is literally like a box within a box. So you get threatened from everywhere, all around you, and you get pushed off. It's very unpleasant, so it's usually better to stand on the rim. You know, there are King of the Hill maps like that, where standing on the point itself is usually very hazardous. Village, as well, is another one. Nepal, in general, is kind of a mess, but, you know. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily like positioning on Koth is inherently different to any other map as Moira. It's just you have to be more aware of your surroundings, because much more of your surroundings are threatening than they would be on another map. So that, you know, I don't, there's not really any like specific King of the Hill map positioning advice I really feel like I can give. It's just kind of like, try to be more aware of your surroundings, because they're more threatening on a King of the Hill map. And the other question is, also, how do you get DPS players to understand that if they're on the other side of the map, I can't heal them? I'm trying to tell them to use a health pack, but to use a health pack if you have it, but it seems like they don't understand. It's because they don't understand. Unfortunately, some people, the greatest flaw that some people have is that they're too stupid to realize that they're stupid. So unfortunately, there's not much you can do about it. It's one of those things. We all wish we could control our teammates, but tragically we can't, so we just, sometimes, we have the guy that picks Torbjorn. You know, life's just difficult like that sometimes. Unfortunately, DPS players in particular, you know, not known for being the brightest players in the world, tend to do some stupid things, like say, I need healing, and then keep going in while they have 5 hit points, or while you're like on the right side of second point on Hanamura trying to push up the right, and they're all the way over on the balcony on the left side, like, I need healing. Wow. there's quite a few walls and enemy teams, in fact, between you and me, so that's going to be very difficult for you. It's, you know, life's difficult like that. So unfortunately, there's no good answer for that one. Sometimes people are just difficult. So let's just start the game now. Let's get down to business. We gotta defend Volskaya Industries, something not many people like to do. Or 2CP maps. So, we're standing all the way up here. Farah's immediately killed herself, which is suboptimal, I would say. Especially right at the start of the round. The thing, like, we're standing all the way up here. This is, like, what people do. The best way to defend on Volskaya is actually to stand, like, on the checkpoint. Not on the checkpoint, but on the high ground around the checkpoint. Because this gate on Volskaya Industries is woefully terrible as a choke point. Because they can just, like, walk around the other side of the door, or they can come, like, around this side and just, like, crush in on you. And, you know, if you go around the other side of the truck, you have to reposition around the truck, and, like, your DPS don't even get great lines of sight. They have to actually, like, kind of put themselves in harm's way to really be able to see out of the gate and shoot at the enemy team. Oh, God. Farah just, like, murders you. There's this window. You can get flanked mad easy from back there. This choke point is very terrible on Volskaya, so it tends to be better to set up around the high ground around the checkpoint. But good luck getting your team to do that outside of a pre-made, because, you know, that's just how life is sometimes with Overwatch. It's like how on Horizon Lunar Colony, going left towards the objective is a lot better than going right. But right is just like the default path people have in their mind, so it's what they take, even though left is, like, way better to go. Anyway, let's not try to get too much into map specifics. We're playing Moira right now. Did not need to throw this healing orb. Because this is like nobody's really hurt, right? You know? We got ult charge to be building right now. So people have crept up around the back side of us. We're draining this Reaper, this McCree right here. Thing is, it's being healed by Moira. We're never going to kill him through McCree healing him. What the fuck am I saying? We're never going to kill McCree through Moira healing him. I think I had a stroke. Like, I don't know what's going on with me. Anyway. We should really be draining Moira instead. Also, we're standing in front of the rest of our team right now. You know, like, let them stand in front of us. Also, if we're standing in front of them, we can't really tell if people need healing. So there's that as well, with being on the front. But, like, we don't want to be, like, that much closer to McCree, really. There's another thing, which is, you know, this is more, like, Reinhardt's stupidity than anyone else's. But, like, when Reinhardt goes over that way, we should try to heal him. Like, I know this is happening behind us, but we don't want the tank to die, right? Like, we don't... That's, like, not ideal. So we should be worried about that. Also, having seen that McCree is now here behind us... If the video... There we go. Having now seen that McCree is here behind us, shooting at somebody else, we should look over yonder at where McCree is shooting at to see if that person he's shooting at is dying. Because it turns out Mercy is in fact dying. And we don't really want the other healer to die. So, you know, we should take an interest in who the person is shooting at. Because we don't want them to die as the healer. Anyway. So, everybody's dead, Dave. Absolutely everybody's dead. We're not dead yet, but we're not long for this world. You know, it's not looking good. Our chances of holding this checkpoint are rather low, I would say. This is how, don't do that. Not a good idea. I'm sure you don't need an agonizing, detailed report on why that wasn't a good idea. This is the way with 2CP maps, is that the first checkpoint is quite hard to hold in general, the exception being Hanamura, which is, because, you know, the gate is absolutely terrible. And Horizon can sometimes be difficult. But really, the 2CP maps, it's quite hard to hold the first checkpoint. It's really the second checkpoint where 90% of the map happens. And then the second checkpoint is very hard to capture, because, oh, the spawn's right fucking there. I actually think Volskaya is probably the best balanced of all of the 2CP maps, because the defenders can't, like, super stall out the objective, but, you know, it's still a 2CP map. And the first checkpoint, like... You can defend it, it's difficult, but more because of, like, how people are. It's, like, okay to defend the first checkpoint, and the second checkpoint doesn't have the typical 2CP problem of the checkpoint, the spawn just being, like, directly adjacent to the checkpoint. That was the cat special guest appearance. But Volskaya is still terrible. All 2CP maps are, in fact, terrible. So now they've come on to this checkpoint. They're coming on to the second checkpoint with quite a few ultimates. We still have Torbjorn. Torbjorn, of course, a wonderful hero when you're already losing, you know? We just love having him around. So really, like, things are terrible right now, and we have limited options to stop them. Healing Orb right here, because we're the one being murdered. Fair enough. Unfortunately, more people are coming to murder us in the near future. Oh no. For the healing orb at the, you know, like, this is one of those things that's, like, hardly likely to ever matter, really. But throw the healing orb behind you, because we want this to hover near our team as much as possible. So if we throw it at the wall, point with my fucking finger like a fucking moron. If we bounce it off the wall, right, like, directly adjacent to us, it'll then come back through the graviton again. Rather than just throwing it off this way, it's going to heal us for a little bit and then be out of range. If we throw it behind us, it'll bounce off the wall, come back through us, and be healing us the entire time. Also, once it goes over there, it's gone. It's not coming back again anytime soon. So, you know, when you're trying to use the healing orb to sustain your team or yourself, you want to throw it in a way where it will bounce around your team and you as much as possible, which typically involves throwing it behind you and then having it bounce back and forth a few times. Volskaya is one of the easier ones because there are quite a few symmetrical walls that you can bounce it between. But you do want to try and keep the healing orb bouncing around your team as much as possible when you're going to throw it. You know, we all know which orb is better, but if you're going to throw the healing orb, you want it to be around you as much as possible. We do have a Pharah. That's a good point for why that person probably picked Mercy. Pharmacy, of course, very strong. And now even more so, current meta that we're in, being at things have gotten largely quite static now, though by the same token, after they buffed Hanzo's projectile speed, he's kind of a hit scan hero, except at long range now. So, ironically, Pharah actually has something to fear from Hanzo now, which did not used to be the case, of course, unless the Hanzo was lucky or a god.
Watch out, soldier.
We're trying to tell Soldier to watch out. Yep, here's Winston right now. I thought we threw the healing orb. I'm a madman. I was going to complain about that, but no, we threw the damage orb. So, Pharah died all the way over there. I hate playing with Pharah when I'm playing Moira, because there's just, like, nothing you can do to help the Pharah as Moira. It's very annoying. And the Pharah never wants to come to you. So, we're getting beat around right now. Why did we use, Fade? We didn't need to use Fade like that. We were not being threatened at all right there. Like, Zarya was kind of looking at us, but we had 250 health at the time. Like, Zarya wasn't scary. So we used Fade, and then, while Fade's on cooldown, we're really easy to kill. Our orb was on cooldown as well, so we were even easier to kill. We used Fade when we didn't need to, then we got in trouble right when Fade was on cooldown, so the trouble didn't go away anytime soon. Now, you know, 2 CP is happening, we're coming out to touch the point, we're hoping we stall it out for long enough that they just kind of lose the will to live and stop attacking, which happens more often than not, you know, especially on Horizon or Hanamura, but what can you do? You know, life's difficult sometimes. What do we do with our orb on this one? I was kind of off of my own little world. We threw the healing orb. Yeah. It's like an okay angle. It's going to bounce between those walls. No, the angle was off. It did not do that. I was going to bounce between those walls and then come back to us. That is not what happened. So we had Fade. Hold down that shift key. It'll happen the second it comes off cooldown. We could have dodged the Winston for a little bit here. Chances of dying still extremely high, but some chance of living is better than no chance of living. And of course, you know, we don't hold the checkpoint. Who would have guessed that we lose the checkpoint in that instance right there? I know, absolutely startling. Diamond Dong is a really good name. He's in gold, unfortunately. He fucking put a 4 instead of A. God damn it. I hate people so much. Deformand Dog. Anyway. Dong. Deformand Dong is not a good name. Anyway. So now we've got to attack Volskaya Industries. Obviously also a very enjoyable task. Everybody loves attacking the 2 CP maps. So, throw the orb up there. This is not a particularly good angle, because what tends to happen when you throw it like that is it bounces around in that little room and then doesn't go at the enemy team in a very convenient angle. What's better is to just bounce it off the inside of the truck, because, you know, it's gonna curve down a little bit, but, like, they're all standing right here. Like, we know what they're doing, right? So we bounce it off the inner side of the truck, and it just comes in at them, and then, like, because of the angle, it's gonna bounce down and then start going up, but it's gonna be bouncing through the entire enemy team, so it's probably gonna still get all the damage off anyway. Throwing it through the window. If somebody's hanging around up there, you'll get them to leave, but just throwing it through the window is not a good angle to throw the orb at. 2 people dead, let's go. One of them's alive again, now somebody else is dead. Still 2 people dead, hooray. Symmetra's scary, we don't want to get into that fight as Moira, because she'll kill us before we kill her. We've performed a strange action, hold on. So we're fading to try and keep up with Reaper, it looks like. Fuck him. Basically, you're more important than him. Here's the thing with, like, fading to somebody who is in critical health, is that something happened to put that person in critical health, right? And you fading up to the person to heal them just puts you next to the thing that is threatening them, and now you don't have your escape to get away from the thing that was threatening them. So it tends to end up with just you and the person dying. In this case, it was just us that died. I think Reaper actually lived, funnily enough, but usually fading up to the person in critical health is not recommended, because something happened, and you fading up to them is going to put you next to the something that's happening, and you don't want that when you've got your only escape on cooldown. So now, Tracer is dead. Very convenient, you know, wonderful. We'd like to try and snowball this momentum across, but now Mercy is also dead. Would like to point out where Tracer died, right? Because we could sort of see this coming, I believe. Because Tracer died over there to McCree. McCree was probably quite close to the Tracer, because in all likelihood, flashbang shoot. So, we don't see McCree over there, which means McCree is probably coming around the left-hand side now. And as we can see, McCree has in fact killed Mercy. So that is, I assume, what happened, because I still don't see him over there. So, you know, when you see somebody die, when you see somebody get killed, if they die in a strange location, that can tell you a lot about where a person is coming from. For example, also, right? If you've got a pretty long-range hero on your team, like Soldier, and you see Reaper killed him, that means Reaper is behind you now, and you should take an interest in looking behind you. Where somebody died can tell you, and who killed them, can tell you a lot about what somebody is going to do in the near future, and where they're going to come from. So, Winston's up to some shit right now. Like, it's a very innovative strategy. Put the bubble down on the platform, ride it out, drop down, jump back in. He's certainly breaking some boundaries. I hadn't thought about that one personally, but it's not exactly a blazing attack or anything, is it? So we've used Coalescence right now. Reinhardt's thrown himself off the map. That was very convenient. So I'm mostly, like, thinking about how we're using Coalescent. We're using it when Reinhardt goes in, which is, like, fair enough. The problem is just, like, the angle it happens at is very difficult to really get full value out of Coalescence, because, of course, the point of using Coalescence is to hit as many people on both teams as possible, because it does damage and healing, so we're looking to heal and do damage at the same time. So, typically, a lot of using your ult as Moira is finding the optimal angle to, like, rotate around the team fight to hit both teams as much as possible. It was rather difficult from that angle, mostly because of the way that Reinhardt went in. So we got flashbang, but he didn't kill us, so we get to fade away, and now we're alive. Hooray. Mercy is currently very low health. We can see Mercy is healing us, and that she's very low health. Mercy is currently behind us, or to the right of us. We should be trying to heal Mercy right now, because we don't want Mercy to die, being the other healer, of course. The enemy team are concerned with a great many things right now. Killing Mercy is but one of a plethora of issues that they're having right now. But we would like to reduce Mercy's chance of dying as much as possible. So we captured the checkpoint with more time than them, so good job, team. I do feel like if you win the first attack with time to spare, but then the team switches over and they finish with more time, the first team is just going to get super tilted off of that. Like, that's not something that bodes well for morale. I also have this theory that, in general, the team that defends first is more likely to lose. Basically because of player mentality. Because you should expect the attacking team to finish the track, right? That you should expect them to capture all the checkpoints once, right? Because the game is designed in such a way that it's meant to go back and forth, and as you get higher and higher in SR, people get better at attacking, right? Like, I've seen Horizon games that go fucking 8-9, right? Like, these things happen. So you should expect, as the defending team, that the attacking team will capture all checkpoints. You're just trying to delay them as much as possible. The thing is that a lot of people, when they're defending, if they don't get a full hold, they get tilted off of it. Like, as soon as they lose a checkpoint, they start getting upset. Seeing people on Route 66, like, you know, the people lose the first checkpoint, start losing their minds. Then they lose the second checkpoint, which is not that hard to lose on Route 66, and they're like, we lost 2 out of 3 checkpoints, and then they get mad tilted, and then, like, I have this theory that the team that defends Thirst has a statistically lower chance of winning, just because of how prone to being shitbags the Overwatch community is. Anyway. Tangents. I'm not one for making concise, salient points. I like to go off in my own little world and talk about asinine bullshit a lot of the time. So, Farah's killed Soldier. Soldier's upset. He got knocked off to the classic Farah cheese that almost never works, but every, like, 1 out of 10 times it does work. This is, again, a very poor angle, and I don't think you need to be told too much why. It's the geometry of the room is just very difficult to work with. It's better to just, like, throw it out against the wall, you know. So Winston is currently here. He is leaving now. Farah's managed to kill herself somehow. Mercy is now dead. How did Mercy die? McCree has gotten up to some shit. How did McCree get up to this shit? Did he just get some shots through? McCree went around that side and managed to get some shots through on Mercy. So, just, you know, we're all distracted by Winston, and McCree manages to kill people while we're distracted. Unfortunate that it's the Mercy. We are a main healer still, so it's not the end of the world that Mercy died, because, you know, we are still a main healer. So, Moira's up to some shit right now. Moira shouldn't be doing that. We should be concerned about how much damage people are taking, because we can see Diva's actively fighting somebody, so I don't, fading over. Don't do this. Like, we've lost this checkpoint. Whole team's dead. You know, we can coalesce them, but, like, this checkpoint's gone. Don't do that. I said that fading up to people who are in danger is usually not a good idea. That's, like, one of the times to use the healing orb, because the healing orb travels a lot faster than you. And also, the healing orb can't be killed, unlike you, unless there's the Diva. or a Genji. But you can be killed, so if somebody far away from you is in trouble, it's usually better to throw the healing orb. Because you don't want them to die, but you also don't want to, like, put yourself in grave harm. So throwing the healing orb to the person far away who is in danger is usually a good course of action. Sometimes the healing orb just ends up doing nothing because they die before it arrives, but sometimes you fade over there to try and heal them and you die. So that's an even worse outcome. So we're not really trying very actively to do much right now. We're kind of, like, not actually doing anything, because, like, these people are not in dire need of being healed, and, like, we're not throwing any damage orbs over there. We're not trying to do damage at all. Like, we're not being particularly productive during this section of gameplay. You know, like, I think that this is a problem Moira players have in general. I think this is more of a problem than the alternative. Is that Moira players kind of have it beat into their heads that, like, you're a healer, you have to heal people. Moira, you're not a DPS hero, you gotta heal people. So I think it puts Moiras in situations where they're afraid to do damage, and they just focus way too hard on healing people. Moira is a hero that is meant to be actively doing damage. Like, if people don't need to be healed, you should be doing damage, because otherwise you're doing nothing. Like, if you're just sitting around waiting for people to get hurt, like, you're not doing anything. You should be trying to do damage at all points in time. You don't need to be healing somebody. So, like, you know, prior to this fight right here, we just spent a lot of time, like, looking at our team, healing people who weren't that hurt, and, like, not doing very much. Like, if people don't need healing, you should be doing something else. Like, it's the same with all healers, right? It's like, if Anna doesn't need to be healing people, she should be trying to shoot people. If Mercy doesn't need to be healing people, she should be damage boosting people. If Moira doesn't need to be healing people, she should be shooting people, or draining people. If Lucio doesn't need to be healing people, he should be speed boosting people. Even if he needs to be healing people, sometimes speed boosting those people is still better, because speed boost is very strong. But Moira, you know, I think that people complain a lot about Moira players thinking they're DPS heroes. I find that the exact inverse of that is true. I find that a lot of Moiras are afraid to do damage. I'm not saying that's, like, right now, like, we could just be shooting those people. Like, our team, like, Mercy can very easily heal these people right now. We could just be actively, like, doing damage during most of this section. I think what tends to happen is just that people don't like to die, strangely enough. So when they start dying, I think they just look for the immediate thing to blame, and they're like, Moira's the main healer on our team, and I died, so that must mean that Moira wasn't healing people, which must mean that Moira was doing nothing but damage instead, right? I think that's what actually happens, because most Moira players I see are actually, like, mad afraid to do damage, right? They're like, I find that people are way too timid when they play Moira, rather than, like, going too ham on doing DPS. Your experience may vary, but my experience is that I think people are just looking for something to blame, and that's an easy thing to blame. Which is how people have built up this thing in their mind that if people don't use team chat, they're throwing. No, it's just that if we lost, someone not being in team chat is a very easy thing to blame. So it's just kind of built up this thing for people. Anyway. So now we have to attack again. They didn't capture the second checkpoint, so, you know, things are, you know, it's a very bad choice as Reinhardt to just charge at them from that far away. This is just a general thing for all Reinhardt players. Do not charge from extremely far away from the enemy team. You want the charge to be as short as possible. Now, if you try and charge somebody point blank, the hitbox gets kind of weird, and it's hard to actually pin someone point blank. But we've stepped on a trap, it's very unfortunate. Watch your feet. It's hard to pin people, like, point blank because the hitbox gets weird, but you really don't want to charge from, like, far away, because you're, like, mad vulnerable if you charge from very far away. People are immediately just going to try and kill you. So, you know, there's a higher chance of getting crowd controlled. It's easier for people to dodge you. Like, just don't do what that boy's doing right now. You know, charging feels real good, but don't charge from the other side of the map. So, you know, Reinhardt has managed to just beat Bastion to death, which is a very unusual turn of events, honestly. So they've lost their Bastion. Mercy rezzed him once, and Bastion died again. Like, you know, it's not really gone well for them. We didn't really need to use Coalescence here, because it looks like we're going to win this fight without it. Like, the fight's going well by the time we use Coalescence. It's like, you can argue Coalescence isn't that important that you need to hold it. You can just use it to make sure you capture the checkpoint. But, like, 2CP is so snowbally, right? That, like, if you can capture the first checkpoint without using your ultimate, you should try to hold your ult during the first checkpoint as much as possible on a 2CP map. Like, don't get greedy with it. Like, if you think you might need it to win the fight, then fair enough, just use it to make sure you win the fight, right? Like, you don't want to be the guy who at the end of the fight lost and didn't use his ultimate. But if you can avoid using your ultimate on the first checkpoint of a 2CP map, that is very preferable. Because the ideal circumstance is you capture the first checkpoint without using any ultimates, but like, or just like 1 or 2, and then you can roll up to the next one with like 4 or 5 and just capture it, and there's nothing they can do about it, right? 2CP is a very snowbally map because it's only 2 points. If you can capture the first point with little resistance and save your ultimates, you can capture the second checkpoint really easily, just like through sheer number of ultimates. So again, like, we're really focused on healing people. We can be trying to do damage. Like, people are not super threatened right now. Like, this is doing nothing but waste our resource. Like, that person's not even hurt, and we're sprinkling him the entire time. This is very poor resource management. just, like, be doing damage. Don't fill time by, like, healing people for no reason or just, like, staring at them. Fill time by damaging the enemy team. This is how all healers are. If you don't need to be healing somebody, don't just sit there over-healing them. Try and do damage. We've thrown the healing orb over there for, like, no reason. There's, like, nobody over there. That guy's dead. Like, not even anywhere near the healing orb that we throw. Just maybe threw it by accident, you know. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt, but, like, oh, good heavens, that was a bad orb right there. So Mercy's died for exactly 0 reason. We've thrown the healing orb for no reason. We could have thrown the damage orb because nobody over here was in significant risk. And we walked all the way around here to them anyway. So we could have thrown the damage orb right there. You know, we have to wait for our team right now, so, like, we are just, like, filling time. I throw damage orbs. Just be doing damage. No! 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 Fill time by doing damage. Throw damage orbs. That boy's no danger. Didn't need the healing orb. So now, we're going in. D.Va's using her ult right there. We're healing nothing. We're healing nothing. We've wasted half our resource healing nothing. Bad use of company resources. It's only Torbjorn. We didn't really need to throw the healing orb right there either, because we could just, like, you know... But at the same time, the damage orb isn't going to bring that much to hurting Torbjorn either. Like, you know, we need to heal ourselves here more than anything else. Now we're just going to use Coalescence, because... Why would we not, basically, you know? Like, why would we not use Coalescence in this instance? And we capture the checkpoint. Hooray! 2 CP maps. Thank goodness that's over. So, now, just adjust my hairline real quick. So, deformed dong gets put to sleep, immediately gets woken back up again. Fun times. Deserved, not stolen in any way. So, things that stand out the most in this game, do enough just resource management. We spend a lot of time, like, sprinkling things that are not hurt or just nothing. So we just kind of wasting our resource. Don't throw healing orbs like that much. Like, just, you know, damage orb, real cool. You know, we throw a lot of healing orbs that we don't need to be throwing out. We could throw out more damage orbs. And don't just, like, if you don't need to be healing somebody, be doing damage to something, or trying to do damage to something. Don't, like, don't overreach and, like, go out of position, like, go mad far up to try and do damage to people. But, like, if you don't need to be healing someone, try to do damage to somebody, because that's a better use of your time than just sitting staring at people waiting for them to get hurt, or sprinkling them when they're, like, taking chip damage, right? Just, like, if chip damage is happening, just, like, sprinkle them for half a second, just, like, spin round for half a second, put the regen on everybody, and then go back to, like, filling time by doing damage. Like, people don't need to be healed. Go do damage. All healers are this way. If people don't need to be doing healing, if people don't need healing, do something to do damage the enemy team or facilitate your team doing damage. It's all, like, it's hard to carry as a healer in general. You have to be as efficient with your time as possible. So when you don't need to be healing, contribute something else to the game. Always think to yourself, what am I doing right now? How am I adding value to my team right now? And if the answer is, I'm just sitting at them waiting for them to take damage, you can be doing something during that time. You don't want to spend time just sitting around waiting for something to happen, right? You want to be doing something during that time. Just, like, even if it's just, like, doing, like, 3 chip damage to somebody, like, poking somebody for, like, 50 damage, you got ult charge off of that, right? Like, you did something during that time instead of doing nothing, right? And sometimes, you know, doing that 50 damage, getting that extra 1% ult charge because you filled your time efficiently, sometimes that matters because you got your ult during the team fight instead of dying at 99%, which is a very common occurrence, or at least it seems to feel like that way anyway. Anyway, so thank you very much for watching. If you did, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer. If you felt I answered your question from the email inadequately, please let me know. I will try to expand further. If you haven't already, you can join our Discord and ask questions more directly and have a conversation about them, or just shitpost with us. And I hope you found the video helpful.